Okay, Mom,
Yes.
why don't we start off today by you telling us a little bit about your, what it was like growing up in Monroe, Virginia, and what your family was like, what your parents were like, and what it was like living in a house with no restroom.
With no what?
Potty.
Oh. We took it. We just took things for granted. We had a potty chair, sit beside the bed, and at night, and in the daytime, we had a house, what do we call it? The toilet.
Outhouse.
Outhouse, yes. And we used the outhouse. And it was, painted and flowers around it and everything. It looked pretty. But we were used to it, so we didn't think about it.
How about in the winter? Didn't you hate to have to go out there in the winter?
We used potties.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you just dumped them in the every day?
We dumped them. Every time you use them, you're supposed to dump them.
Okay.
Can we change the subject?
So, tell us about your parents.
Well, my parents were, they fought a lot. Well, they were good parents. I think they took good care of us. And Daddy sold insurance, that was his job. So he was traveling a lot. He'd get on the railroad train and he'd ride to Alexandria or DC or somewhere and sign up people for insurance. And then he'd come back home. And Mama was a home mother for a good part of it. And then she had a colored lady came in, just like I did. And she did the cooking and cleaning and kept house. And Mama she liked to go to meetings and sing in the choir. And she had lots of lady friends. And she kept busy.
Do you remember the story about her learning to drive?
Learning to drive?
Learning to drive?
No.
I used to tell a story about her driving around the house. She kept driving around and around and around the house.
Till it ran out of gas.
Till it ran out of gas, because she didn't know how to stop it.
Oh. Yeah, I can remember a little bit about that now. At a different house. We lived up on a hill and that's the way she learned to drive a car.
Now, tell us about her and making a chicken dinner. What did she have to do to make chicken dinner?
What did she have to do to make chicken dinner?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we raised chicken in the yard. We had a fenced-in place for her. And she'd go out and she'd pick up a chicken and she'd grab it around the neck and she'd swing her till his neck broke. And then she brought him in and picked the feathers off of him and cleaned him up, stuffed him in the water, and then she fried chicken. She was a good cook.
Was she?
Yeah. She didn't do much cooking, but she was a good cook when the colored ladies that came in also cooked for us too. But she did pretty good. She knew how to fry chicken and make biscuits and things like that.
So
she had 6 kids and she had to take care of them too.
Yeah.
So she divided up the work between her and anybody that came to help.
So when you went to school, what sport was it that you liked to play?
What sport?
Mm-hmm.
It's a small town. And they didn't have any big events or anything, but sports. Well, when I got up to junior high and higher grades, I played basketball. And I played
Basketball?
It's basketball.
Yeah. Mhm.
And
And what happened to you on the bus one time?
what happened on the bus one time, I can't think of the story.
Did you get in trouble one time for something you did on the bus?
Oh, I was naked.
Uh-uh.
I had a boyfriend, real white, the whole time during the high school. And, we did a lot of hugging and kissing on the bus. We usually sat near the back, so everybody wouldn't see it.
So did you get kicked off the basketball team because of that?
I think I did, but I can't remember.
So
But
then,
they didn't want us to do that.
so then you ended up coming to Winchester. Tell about how you ended up in Winchester going to nursing school.
Well, you know, Phoebe always wanted to be a nurse, and she talked about it all the time. And then
Well, where were you all then?
we were in Monroe,
No, when you left Monroe, where did you go?
to nurse.
Did you go there somewhere else first?
I can't remember that.
Did you and Phoebe go to DC and live with your sister to work there?
Oh, yeah. We each had a job. I was a secretarial job, and I mean, I didn't know about what I was doing. I did know how to type because I took classes in school, and I was doing all right. But she kept talking to me about joining the army and going off to be a nurse, and she just insisted on me going. So I said, okay, I'll go be a nurse. So during the war, and they paid for our education, so we didn't have to pay for our lessons being a nurse, and we got through it, and got it. But at the end of it, we were supposed to go in the army and be nurses, but then the war was over, and we never had to do that. So we just went to the hospital in Lynchburg and got jobs. And then I forgot what we did. What came next?
Is that, when did they come to Winchester?
Who?
You and Phoebe. Well, you went to school here, and then you went to work in Lynchburg from here at the
When
hospital?
we graduated.
Okay. So at what point did you meet this young man?
It was, I'm having trouble placing it.
When did y'all meet, Dad?
It was in the last part of my training.
Yeah, I came back from service in '46, and so she probably started her training in '44 with a 3-year course. So she hadn't been out of school. She graduated in '42, the same year as I did.
Well, you came home before I left there because we started dating.
Yeah, well, we started dating, it would have been '47. So we, I guess, I got out in February '47, and then she finished school in June, so actually, we really only dated for about 6 months, and we less than that. But we saw a lot of each other. And I think we liked each other a little bit.
You think?
I think so.
So what was it used to bring her at the hospital? Used to bring something to her that she really liked.
You mean when I was working?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we had our dates when I was in training, and we had our dates in the living room of the nursing home. And didn't go in, but he brought me dinner,
Mm-hmm.
and we'd sit down and eat dinner and chat, get acquainted.
And what was it you told me once about Dad? One of the first things you said you liked about him. You remember what it was?
Right now.
I'll give you a hint.
Huh? Do you remember what it was?
She's trying to tell you.
Oh. You like to kiss? You always kiss. Good. We did a lot of kissing.
You said he was a good kisser.
Yeah.
And you said he used to bring you fried chicken.
He did. His father, he was with his father and mother, and she did all the cooking. And then she died, and they had a lady to come in and cook for them. But I didn't know her very well. She passed away. She passed away before he got home. And so I never really got to know her.
Dad, how about you? What was the first thing you fell in love with about Mom?
She was a good kisser. No, she was just down to earth. And I knew she'd make a good nurse. She was just that kind of a person. And you know, they wore wore uniforms as if they were in the service when they went to school, and then after that they put on their whites. Back then you knew who a nurse was because they had their whites and a little cap on, and then they go to work. So it wasn't easy. It had to be a pretty hard 3 years to do both of those things. And she worked in all different capacities there. And before she left, if I'm right, she had to have a wisdom tooth pulled. And for some reason or other, she was in the hospital. And I saw her, and this was just before she left. And we said, you know, when she left, we said goodbye, and maybe we see each other sometime. But it was, I think we really liked each other, but I don't think it was serious to the point that we ever thought about getting married.
And then what happened?
And then I had to go to, I had a friend down there, Snuffy Taylor, was down there as an assistant coach in Lynchburg, I think it was high school. And he invited me down. I said, why don't you come down for a weekend? And his mother was living with her at the time. He said, so, well, I'll just give Jenny a call. Maybe I'll see her. So I did. And I went by and picked her up, and we went to a football game together and went out to dinner. We might have eaten at Snuffy's mother may have cooked a meal for us. And then that night, she said, well, why don't you just spend the night at our house? So that'd be fine, but her daddy, he made me sleep next door.
Aww.
So, the next day we had to leave, I had to leave, and he came back home.
Yeah.
And then, I knew then that I had to go back down to an American Legion meeting. And Carl Campbell, who's then postmaster, Winchester Post Office, he was going with me. And he said, well, I know the whites down there that I've known for years, and I'll give them a call, maybe I can stay with them. I said, well, I'll see Jenny again. So I borrowed $1,000 from the commercial bank and went down to a closed jewelry store. Now I'm talking about 1947. And bought a diamond ring and paid $600 for it, which was a lot of money for a ring back then.
I'm sure.
And I decided I was going to give it to her. And after I saw her, and when I came back home, I just realized, man, I really love that girl.
Aw, that's so sweet.
So went back down. I guess, I'm not sure whether we were able to, I guess we spent some, I'm sure we spent some time together. Cause once again, I spent the night next door, and we went out, that's right, and then when we came back that night, I proposed to her, and I know she was shocked. You know, she knew I was Jewish, and I'm sure that entered her mind. And she finally said yes and took the ring.
So
Phoebe got married before she did.
Oh,
Didn't I have to say, I have to think it over? Didn't I say that?
Yeah, you said, yeah. I have to think it over for 20, 30 minutes.
I didn't know what it meant to be married to a Jewish person. What do you have to do, or do I have to change? And do I have to go to the temple, or I didn't know what I was getting into.
You have to get circumcised.
That was you.
Yes, I know.
So we, then she came up to Winchester, and Phoebe had married in the meantime, and she and Hugh were living on National Avenue. And she came up and stayed with her, and we went to D.C. The local rabbi wouldn't marry us.
Wow.
But we really didn't, we didn't
I
have a
thought it was
rabbi
Jewish.
back. We didn't have a rabbi back then, anyhow. Just a part-time that used to come in once in a while. So, somebody, a friend of ours, got us in touch with Dr. Gerstenfeld, Rabbi Gerstenfeld in D.C. And we went down to see him, and I think we went down there maybe 2 or 3 times. Talked to us. That was it. Yeah. I'll marry you all. So we set a date for January the 10th, 1948. And here we are today, 50 years later. Unbelievable.
I agreed to go to the temple
Yes,
with
you
him.
did.
And
Yes, you did.
next thing you know, I was singing in a choir, and I was teaching Sunday school.
Little Methodist lady. Well, you know, Bobby did the same thing, and Nikki did the same thing. Martreesa did the same thing.
No, Martreesa never went.
Yeah. Oh, she was secretary of the women's club at one time. Yeah. They were involved in it until the time for Stanley to his bar mitzvah, and they wouldn't let him do it in English because he was
dyslexic?
dyslexic, yeah.
Hmm.
And they dropped out of the temple, never did get involved anymore.
Oh.
Yeah, it was, I think back, and that was a terrible thing to think of somebody doing that.
Mm-hmm.
She never said anything about it, never fussed about it. She just came right in and was right in on doing everything.
I didn't know what I was doing.
Well, when she was still in nursing school, he used to have her over to dinner at the house once in a while. And here was 5 boys and Dad and this girl here.
Well, if you passed that test,
Yeah.
then you knew you're okay. Dad, did you have to get Mom's father's permission to marry her?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. Talked to him, and he said, well, it's strictly up to her. Whatever she wants to do.
And I understand that Mom's mother was quite a fan of yours.
She didn't wash the dishes very good.
What?
Yeah, well, this was after we were married. I used to go down there. We used to go down, and she would wash the dishes and wouldn't wash the soap off of them. So I fussed at her and made her wash the dishes.
So you taught her the right way to do it.
But we, after we were married, before Steve was born, we used to go down there a few times. Spend some time with them. Got to know them better. Got to know her family better. And we spent our honeymoon in New York.
New York City?
Yeah, and we stayed with Emily and Robert. They had a big old apartment, plenty of room. We stayed there and went sightseeing. One day we decided to go to the Statue of Liberty and got a picture of us on this boat where it was, taking us over. Cold, man, it was cold. Dumbest thing anybody would do. Anyhow, we did it. January 1948.
Did you drive to New York or take a train?
I feel I can't remember. I would assume that we probably took a train.
Yeah.
I would think so.
Yeah, well, let's see, 48. Yeah, I had my own car by then, yeah. But when we were growing up, we get back a little bit to our history, that Dad and Mom came to, Dad used to come down, pedal down here from Waynesburg, Pennsylvania. His dad had a junkyard over in Waynesburg, and Dad worked for him. And he would hitch up a horse and wagon and come down Route 11 and stop at the farms and mechanic shops and pick up stuff and then bring it into Winchester. And there were 2 junkyards here. One was Marshall Novig's grandfather had one, and another fellow by the name of Isidore Cinder had one. And there were Jewish families here, and they put Dad up overnight, which I thought was very nice. So one day, according to Dad, he came in, and Mr. Schindler told him, Louis, I'm ready to quit. If you want to take this junkyard over, it's yours.
He just gave it to him?
Yeah, just gave it to him. Right there it is. So on March 17th, 1917, according to your seat granddaddy, loaded up a wagon with some furniture, hitched the horse up, Mama and Betty and Yoma. Betty was 3 and Yoma was 1. And into Winchester they came. And as they came into town, they heard this band playing. And of according to Dad, he turned to Mom and said, "Mother, how'd they know we were coming to Winchester?" They found a place to live. They were both 27 years old when they came into Winchester. And took over his little junkyard, and the rest is history with 6 more children. And we all worked in the junkyard. We all had other jobs as we grew up. I worked in a filling station and on the weekends when Sadie Haynes, who had an orchestra when he played, and then I worked in a grocery store, sanitary grocery store, which is on the corner of Loudon and Piccadilly Street, where that bookstore is now, and they're moving. And back then, people would come in with a list. They'd give you the list, and then you'd get everything for them, bring it up on the cash register, and
Wow,
then we carried out to the cars for them.
nice.
And that's when we moved around the corner to Safeway. Building's still there. And Joe worked with Dad most of the time. Sam worked down at the Palace Theater. And back then, the ushers wore a uniform. And Sam would come home, we lived on National Avenue. And Sam would come home for lunch. And we hear he'd come strolling down the street in that uniform. Probably felt like it was a damn brigadier general. But then we'd go down and stay in front of the theater, and every once in a while Sam would have to take over the ticket booth. And when he did, well, we'd
Oh,
go on into the movies. If Herman Hable knew that, he'd turn over in his grave.
and back then it was segregated, right?
Segregated, yeah. And we didn't think, we didn't think anything about it, at least I didn't, and I'm sure most of it was just something that was there. And we had some black friends. And if we'd go upstairs, they'd make us come back down. Couldn't stay up there. And even in school, we just, they went to one school and we went to another. And that's it. But it wasn't until 54 when they finally integrated. Somewhere around there.
So Dad, growing up in Winchester, did you ever feel any prejudice against you all because you were Jewish?
Never, except one time Joe was telling me that I didn't, but they were down at the Elks Club. He and Sam belonged to the Elks Club, and they were down there one day, and Pink Arthur, who was the Arthur boys' daddy, said something about the Jewish people, and Joe hit him.
You hit him?
He hit him. Yeah, and they stopped there. They pulled him away from him. But then after that, Pink, he apologized, and the Arthur family became a good friend of ours.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and when we had the junkyard on, let's see, that would have been Kent Street. Yeah, Kent Street. Yeah. There was a grocery store over on the corner, and of course we had this junkyard over there, and there was a filling station here, and the guy that had the filling station let us use the bathroom, and for some reason the other guy's name was Earl Freeze, and for some reason he came out and said something to Joe, and Joe beat the hell out of him, literally